Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll examine the proposed Green New Deal and the impact it could have on the beef industry. Plus, a visit to the always popular Cattlemen's College.
Now, from the Denver headquarters of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, it's NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. There was a stir in Washington, D.C. recently when a group of left-wing lawmakers proposed something called the Green New Deal. So what is it and what impact could it have on cattle producers? Joining me now from NCBA's Washington office is Colin Woodall, NCBA's Senior Vice President of Government Affairs. So Colin, what exactly is this Green New Deal?
Now, the Green New Deal is a resolution that has been introduced in both the U.S. House and the Senate. In essence, what it is trying to do is to eliminate greenhouse gases. Now, that has a huge impact on agriculture. It will also have a huge impact on the overall productivity of this country. And as such, it is something that causes us a lot of concern, so much concern that we were able to amend our overall 2019 policy priorities to add this as one of the issues that we will be working very hard here over the course of the next year.
So why should beef producers be so concerned?
This is a problem for all of us in the U.S. beef industry because we are square in the crosshairs. Matter of fact, in the original version of the talking points that went along with this Green New Deal, cattle were specifically called out. That is a problem because it's obvious that they're coming after us, and this is a holdover from what we have seen for about the past 15 to 16 years now, going back to the United Nations Livestock's Long Shadow, where false information and wrong information has been used to paint us as the overall contributor to greenhouse gases when we know that here in the United States, we are only about 2% of the overall greenhouse gases.
Should we be worried about the lack of details in this resolution, Colin?
We're extremely worried about the lack of details in this resolution because they are not taking into account the impact on agriculture and ultimately the food supply. They're also not taking into account on how people get from point A to point B. If we eliminate greenhouse gases, how do we get to work? How do we fly to see our families? How do we as a nation continue to be productive? It's also a concern because they really have not factored in the overall cost to the American taxpayer. So what we have asked is for the sponsors of the Green New Deal to take a hard look and give us some actual details and some numbers, and more importantly, to check their math and show us that they actually know what they're talking about as they continue to push forward with this Green New Deal.
One last question. What can cattle producers do to support your team as you work on this issue?
As producers, we need you to reach out to your member of Congress and make it very clear that the cattle business is not part of the problem. We are part of the solution. When you look at what we have been able to do in making our animals more efficient, the fact that we can produce the same amount of beef that we did in 1977 with 1/3 fewer cattle, the fact that only 40% of the land, or a good 40% of the land in this country is only good for grazing and not for crop production, and that we can take that grazing land, that grass, and turn it into high quality protein. All of these are facts and figures that need to be passed along to the members of Congress so that way they can step up and say that the Green New Deal is not the right solution for the United States.
Thanks so much, Colin, for your time and insight. NCBA's Spring Legislative Conference is just around the corner and is one way to make your voice heard on issues like the Green New Deal. It's April 2nd through the 4th in Washington, D.C. Find details on how to register online at the website ncba.org. Obviously, the Green New Deal doesn't have a lot of substance at this time, but that doesn't mean the beef industry isn't taking the threat seriously. Here to talk more about those efforts is Dr. Sarah Place, the Senior Director of Sustainable Beef Research for NCBA. Dr. Place, we've heard a lot lately about cow emissions. What's the truth? Are we really causing climate change?
Yeah, I think it's important to just start off at the top. You know, we hear a lot about this issue and people usually reference cow farts.
Right.
But, you know, that's fake news, right? It's important to note it all comes out the front end of the animal, or almost all of it does, right? It's cow burps, not cow farts. So with that disclaimer, of course, cattle produce methane gas, and methane is a greenhouse gas. They didn't just start producing this methane, right? They've been doing it for thousands of years as they've been alive. But what's really key to understand is that when we look at US EPA data, you know, greenhouse gas emissions from cattle are just about 2% of US emissions. So that's an important thing to note and to have as a nugget of information.
That's not our data, that's EPA data.
That's EPA data. The other important thing to understand is methane's a little bit different than carbon dioxide, which viewers may have heard too when we talk about climate change. Methane only lasts in the atmosphere for about 10 or 12 years, right? So when we think about the whole cycle of cattle production, cattle are eating plants that have taken up carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, right? Photosynthesis, as we all know. And then those plants are fermented in the rumen, and some of that carbon gets emitted as methane. And then in about 10 or 12 years, it gets broken down to carbon dioxide, actually, in the atmosphere. So it's kind of a cycle that repeats over and over again. And what's really key about that is that if cattle emissions are flat or slightly declining, which is what's happened in the United States, as we know, right, our cattle herd has actually shrunk over time, you can't really point to cattle in the US as increasing concentrations of methane in the atmosphere. So it's a little complicated, but that's super important to understand, is that really the science doesn't back up pointing to US cattle as a major driver of increasing methane. And so again, we think about sources, you know, we have EPA as a source for that, USDA, and there's also some really interesting research that's come out of University of Oxford that would kind of back that up in terms of it's a cycle, right? And it's making sure that it's in balance. We're not expanding herds. You know, producers can feel pretty confident that your cattle burps, not farts, are not causing climate change in the United States.
Yeah, some great facts there that a lot of people need to know. And so I'd be curious, what is NCBA and the Beef Checkoff doing to try to counter some of these myths?
Yeah, so really science is the foundation, right? So we look to some of those resources like EPA, but we also do research ourselves with the checkoff. So that's really key. And once we have that scientific foundation, we look at communicating that to audiences that are seeking that out, right? So oftentimes it's not just cattle producers, obviously, right? It's the consumer-facing folks, whether it's dietitians or other influencers, or we get unique opportunities. For example, I did an interview with Glenn Beck, right? And that kind of audience, right? So we try to get that information out there to the people that are asking those questions and are really trying to separate fact from fiction.
So I'm curious, I was going to ask you about that because it's not just been Glenn Beck, there's been other folks that you've been engaging with, both in print media and other media. What are you learning in those engagements about their perceptions and misperceptions relative to this topic?
Yeah, so I think there's all this complexity about greenhouse gas emissions, but I think it's always important to take a step back, and I think a lot of this comes from the fact that people don't really understand how beef is raised today, right? They don't understand how the food gets to the plate in general, but definitely how cattle are raised. So a lot of times it comes down to just explaining, you know, the life cycle of cattle in the U.S. and what they're actually consuming, and then getting into some more of these complexities about greenhouse gas emissions.
Well, we certainly appreciate all that you and your team are doing. It is going to continue to be critical issue for all of us in the beef cattle industry. Thank you, Dr. Place.
Thank you.
Now, if you have additional questions about sustainability research, or if you need facts to help answer consumer questions, go to beefitswhatsfordinner.com and click on the Raising Beef tab. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll examine some of the policy issues that'll be top of mind for cattle producers in 2019. And later, we'll take you inside the industry's premier educational event, Cattlemen's College. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When it comes to the beef business, there's no room for gray area. The decisions being made in Washington affect the future of the beef industry, the livelihood of your fellow farmers and ranchers. Your National Cattlemen's Beef Association knows there's what benefits cattlemen and there's what doesn't. To us, it's as clear as black and white. Visit joinncba.org to learn more.
The elements can be relentless. Make sure they have respiratory protection to match.
Don't miss the 2019 NCBA Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. It's your opportunity to meet with congressional leaders and federal agency influencers to let them know where cattlemen and women stand on critical issues that impact the cattle business and our way of life. Make plans to be in Washington, D.C. April 2nd to the 4th, the 2019 NCBA Legislative Conference. Together, we can do more. Details at ncba.org.
Lawmakers in Washington, D.C. continue to debate a long list of important issues that could have a significant impact on the beef cattle industry. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Russell Nemitz joins us with a look at some of the key issues for 2019. Russell?
Well, policy work is a huge priority for the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And with us on Cattlemen to Cattlemen today to talk about some of those key priorities that the NCBA is working on behalf of its members nationwide is Dave Daly from the California Cattlemen's Association. You're a past president of the organization. You ranch in Northern California. Never a lack of issues to talk about in the beef cattle industry, Dave. And you said in your area, lots of environmental regulations.
Well, it's California. What would you expect, right? I'm a Western rancher, public lands user, Forest Service, National Forest. So we deal with a lot of environmental issues, and then it's complicated because of Sacramento sometimes. But we've been so faced with issues relative to Endangered Species Act, the ability for us to really operate on public lands and even on our private lands. So things that NCBA's work for us on ESA, on WOTUS, on the waters of the United States issues, all important to us. But frankly, California and much of the West have been consumed by catastrophic wildfire over the past few years. And it's a challenge that I hope people realize is not just a small isolated incident, it's consuming the West. We got to do something.
So what would you guys like to see out of Washington, D.C. on behalf of those of us out here in the West that do deal with these catastrophic wildfires year in and year out?
We've got to change some things. We have to change some things about the way we manage forests. We have to have the ability to do prescribed burning, to clear underbrush, more grazing. Frankly, they've locked up a lot of these lands in easements or private opportunities where they want to exclude cattle. They come back with this horrendous fuel load. So frankly, mismanagement has led to a lot of these issues we have. And sure, droughts contributed to it. People can argue whether it's climate change. I don't want to get in that discussion. I just know we got to do something. And it's really sad. We've lost a lot of life in California. The Camp Fire was in my home county, Butte County, the devastating one that destroyed the town of Paradise. A lot of ranchers lost a lot there. But it's sad that now we actually have Sacramento listening to us. It took a lot of people being killed for them to say, oh, maybe there's an issue here. And we have to, as sad as it may be, capitalize on that opportunity to say this is a major issue that's not getting better unless we reform the way we manage our undergrowth.
You know, talking about some of the other key priorities that the NCBA is working on, I mean, another one that's obviously been in the news a lot, alternative proteins and fake meat, and this has the attention of cattlemen and cattlewomen.
It does, and I'm really confident that NCBA is at the table early on this one, and they're part of that whole discussion at the beginning, so we have an opportunity to shape that conversation. We got great staff working on it. I really believe it's so critical that we understand that USDA is a regulatory point of this. Our product's so good that when consumers know about it, I don't worry at all. I've tried them both, and I would challenge ranchers as much. I mean, they may hate swallowing it, but if they haven't tasted it, once they taste it, they'll feel a little better that our product's the right product, but that has to be managed by USDA, not FDA.
Hey, Dave, we raise a lot of great products on our farms and ranches, but ultimately we have to get them to market. And of course, another big issue facing a regulatory hurdle here of late, ELDs, hours of service for the U.S. livestock industry, and livestock transporters.
It's dramatic, and again, West Coast, a lot of our cattle are shipped to the Midwest, at least to Colorado, if not Nebraska and Kansas, to be fed. There's a lot of movement of cattle in and out of California this stalker season. And we've got some real challenges if ELD, I mean, it's so difficult sometimes now even to get trucks. You add one more burden and one more freight differential, it's more difficult than I think anybody of us can realize. You know, but we want to pose this as an economic issue. The issue that resonates with people, it's an animal welfare issue. You can't stop and unload those trucks. You can't stop and set them for 10 hours and move again. And I think as we start to get that message across, we actually have some people who realize it's not like hauling a load of whatever from Walmart, right? Or even other agricultural products. We've got to treat them as live animals, and I hope that resonates with our regulators, our congressmen.
And finally, how important is it to have boots on Capitol Hill every day by having the NCBA in Washington, D.C. every day?
We're really lucky. I mean, it's a great staff. They're engaged. They get there. They know the right people. And frankly, I don't like going. I mean, I do go, but it's a long ways from California. It's hard to get there. They need to be there because I don't want to be. I'll go when I have to be, but I'm glad they're there every day.
We appreciate you being on Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Thanks. Enjoyed it.
All right, again, we've been visiting with Dave Daly, the past president of the California Cattlemen's Association. With that, we'll go ahead and send it back to you.
Now, you can help support the work done on Capitol Hill by becoming an NCBA member. When you join, you'll receive the members-only Beltway Beef newsletter, a weekly update straight from NCBA staff in Washington, D.C. This will help you stay up to date on the latest key policy initiatives that'll impact your business. It's easy to become a member. Just call 1-866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association takes pride in being a leading source of producer education, and Cattlemen's College is famous for its stimulating and thought-provoking sessions that always draw a crowd. Matt Fleck takes a closer look at this event and why it's so valuable to producers.
School was in session for more than 1,500 beef producers at Cattlemen's College in New Orleans. This event, held in conjunction with the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show, is the industry's biggest and most in-depth educational program.
It's the largest Cattlemen's College we've ever put on, with 24 breakout sessions. With so many sessions, we know it's hard for the attendees to go to all of them, so this year we lengthened Cattlemen's College. We allowed so that 4 sessions will be offered on Tuesday, so that the early attendees can check out those sessions and then go to 3 different sessions on Wednesday.
This is the 26th straight year for Cattlemen's College, which has been sponsored by Zoetis Animal Health since the program was first established.
Over a quarter of a century we've been involved in Cattlemen's College, very proud of that. And these are the customers of our future. These are the very people who are going to be taking on the herds from their grandfathers, fathers and grandmothers, and really looking at how the future of the industry is going to be solid for the next quarter century to come.
This year's curriculum touched on many topics, including genetics, nutrition, reproduction, and grazing management. Not only did participants gain important knowledge found only at this convention, it is information that can be taken home and put to practical use no matter where you live or your experience level in the industry.
When it comes to the cattlemen, they're from all across the U.S., so we got to make sure we touch every region of the U.S., not only here in the South where we're at this year, but also those in the West, those in the Southeast, those up in the North as well. We got producers that are just getting into the beef industry, and we got producers that have been in the beef industry for 50 years. So we know we got to have a variety of topics.
I've been really fortunate in my career to be on the Cattlemen's College program fairly frequently, and it's really a highlight of the year for me. You get to come and interact with cow-calf and beef producers from across the value chain and from across the country. And so, it's a good chance for me to get out of Kansas and interface with lots of producers. And I always feel like I gain more at one of these meetings from that interaction because it shapes the way I think and the way I communicate ideas to producers.
It's always great to talk about cattle handling techniques, technology such as genetics, diagnostics. I mean, it's amazing the breadth of coverage and the amount of learning that goes on here. Times move really quickly in the cattle industry. New techniques, new methodologies are happening every year. So this is a great opportunity for people who really want to talk about the cutting edge of cattle production, what the latest thoughts are, engage in that educational content and make sure they're staying ahead of the pack.
The impressive attendance shows that cattlemen and women are just as hungry for information today as they were when the program first began. Cattlemen's College gives them the tools and techniques they need to handle anything the business can throw at them.
They love the topics we bring to the table because usually they're able to walk away with something, take it back to their farm or ranch to help them make them more profitable or more sustainable. You know, we don't want them to get caught off guard. We want them to be ready so that they don't miss a beat on their operation. We know that they can't do that. You know, time is money, and so we're just trying to help them save time on their operation to help make them more profitable.
Reporting from New Orleans, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
If you were unable to attend Cattlemen's College in New Orleans, or if there was a class you missed that you really wanted to see, the good news is that all the sessions were recorded and will be available for viewing online. Just visit ncba.org and click on the Producers tab for all of the details. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll take you inside a Cattlemen's College session that highlighted the value of crossbreeding. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When you're raising cattle, you might have to solve a dozen problems before you even get through your first cup of coffee. Still, one thing we don't ever have to worry about is implant performance.
We use Synvex Swingrass. It's the only true 200-day trim-blown acetate implant for grazing steers and heifers.
And you can actually drink this before it gets cold. Ooh, that'll put hair on your chest.
Say goodbye to your toughest pasture and rangeland weeds for good. Because one product offers season-long control, handles the widest spectrum of broadleaf weeds, and clears the way for increased forage with greater grazing flexibility. So you get more beef per acre at a cost that can't be beat. It's Grazon Next HL herbicide, and if it's in your pastures, plain and simple, weeds won't be.
What does it mean to be an American cattleman? It means you have what it takes where it counts, on the inside. At Ritchie, we understand that. It's what's on the inside that defines us. We share the same values: ingenuity, commitment, sense of pride. These are the values that built this country. They're the values that built this company. Ritchie, proud to be a partner to the American cattlemen since 1921.
Cattle producers are always looking for ways to increase their profit potential. One way is to improve the genetics in your herd. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brian Baxter has a look at how crossbreeding can improve an operation's productivity and profitability.
If you're a cow-calf producer, there are two primary ways to improve your profitability: either cut costs or increase production. Dr. Bob Weber of Kansas State University says one of the low or even no-cost strategies for cattle producers to improve their profits is by implementing a program of crossbreeding.
I think one of the real challenges we face is, in the last few years, we're kind of back into the cost price squeeze, right? We had $3 calves for a while, which everybody thought was great, that is, but we're back to sort of realistic levels now. And, most of the university estimates say annual cow costs over $800 a cow. So everybody now is going back and thinking about how do I become more efficient? And I think against the backdrop of sustainability. So thinking through, how do I integrate my decision making to increase profitability, but also meet lots of objectives in terms of replacement rates, calf product, and those sort of things. So crossbreeding is one that's come back to the discussion because we know of that substantial increase in weaning weight per cow exposed that various crossbreeding systems offer.
As part of NCBA's producer education program, Dr. Weber spoke to a crowded room at the 2019 Cattlemen's College. He told the group that decades of research and experience clearly show that a well-thought-out cross-breeding program gives producers stronger cattle performance.
We understand a lot of the opportunities and benefits that crossbreeding presents to us in terms of really two key areas. One of those is heterosis or hybrid vigor, that extra boost in performance we get. And the other piece is breed complementarity. So how do we put breed components together that make sense in terms of really kind of optimizing our cows for our production environment, so controlling cow size and lactation and capitalizing on the increased longevity and reproductive performance of crossbred cows, and then mate those to complementary sires that produce calves that are market targeted.
More pounds per calf is one direct benefit of crossbreeding. And Dr. Weber used several examples to show that the bottom line impact on a commercial cow-calf operation can be significant.
I used literature estimates for improvement in weaning weight per cow exposed, and I used an F1, so say black baldy cow mated to a terminal bull as an example. So I've got all the cow heterosis I can get and individual heterosis. And my estimate's that right now that's worth about $150 per cow per year in terms of additional revenue. And the beauty of that is we get to capture that $150 without really changing resource base or cost inputs. In many cases, costs in our system go down because of decreased replacement rate as one of the primary areas. And so I think producers, we get really focused on how much calves weigh when we sell them and how much they bring. That's the premium that we talk about in the marketplace. But we need to take a step back and look at how did we actually produce those calves and how much did it cost to get them there, and figure out ways to do both pieces, right? Build premium value calves in the marketplace, but do as much on the backside to control costs and inputs as we can, and heterosis plays a big role.
As with any production change, Dr. Weber says each producer must evaluate for themselves how crossbreeding might work best for their operation.
One of the first and most important steps, I think, for producers is to do some reading and some education. Make sure you're kind of up to speed on the various crossbreeding systems to do the planning work. Then go run it past some people. Okay, people you trust. That might be your seed stock vendor, your veterinarian, extension professional, any of those guys, because they're going to have a different view of your operation than you do and can really provide some of that sounding board and feedback. And the other thing that does is build some accountability, right? So making sure we put a plan in place and we continue that plan over years is really important.
With the right plan and clear goals, Dr. Weber says a crossbreeding program doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, he says it will be more valuable if a producer keeps it simple and sustainable for the long term. I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Want to rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or catch up on anything you've missed? Then visit our YouTube page. We're not done talking about the topic of crossbreeding. When we return, we'll talk about the value of adding Hereford genetics to your herd. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Looking for an advantage in your cattle business? Then join the wave of commercial cattlemen who are seeing the value of Hereford genetics.
Breed back is just absolutely phenomenal. I'd say probably 80% of our keeping heifers were baldy this year, and just can't say enough good things about them.
Since we started using Hereford bulls again, I've for sure probably seen 15 to 20 pounds on our weaning weight.
I think our Hereford baldy heifers, they'll be a little more fertile, have a little more longevity.
Hereford bulls and females maximize the value of your herd, improving fertility, feed efficiency, docility, and more.
Hereford really has a big impact over other breeds when it comes to that heterosis and hybrid vigor. It's really humbling to visit with these cow-calf producers and see these 100-year commercial ranches coming back to Hereford. They've seen the differences, they've seen the genetic progress, they've seen the difference in the cattle.
The science shows Hereford genetics pay. Don't miss out on the Hereford advantage. Discover the bald-faced truth about Hereford genetics at the website herefordtruth.org.
Welcome back. With breeding season just around the corner, producers will be looking for genetics that will allow them to get the most out of their calf crop. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brad Bulla explains why producers should consider the Hereford breed if they want to improve their bottom line.
For more than 100 years, the Hereford breed has been a part of the U.S. beef industry. With cattle producers facing more challenges than ever, using Hereford genetics in a crossbreeding program can help.
We're very proud at the American Hereford Association to endorse the commercial female and the commercial F1 baldy female. She's been the queen of the cow herd for a long time. Crossbreeding and hybrid vigor has definitely worked and been well documented over the last 75 to 100 years, time in and time out. And you couple that with the fertility that you gain with Hereford genetics going on what is today primarily an Angus-driven or a black commercial cow herd, and you're going to get instant rewards because of those advantages in fertility, heterosis, what you're picking up in that cross. When you think about complementary breeding and heterosis, taking two breeds that are more unrelated than another, Hereford really has a big impact over other breeds when it comes to that heterosis and hybrid vigor.
With the Hereford bulls, we've seen a lot of hybrid vigor in the extra weight that we're getting in the calves. Last year we were really strong Hereford sired, and that was the heaviest set of steer calves we've ever weaned, and it was 23 pounds heavier.
Since we started using Hereford bulls 6-7 years ago, I can sure tell a difference in our weaning weights. Even on our baldy cows, we stick a black bull on. We'll either get a black calf or a black baldy calf out of those baldy cows. Those calves hang right in there with our F1 crosses too, you know. Just really high on the baldy cows.
The hybrid vigor is working good for both Angus and Hereford programs. These baldy calves out of these Angus cows, I mean, they'll hit the ground in 30 below weather and they'll jump right up and they don't have any problems. I think that hybrid vigor, you get a little black Angus in with a Hereford, and I think it's really working well both ways.
Hereford has been around since 1881, and there's a good reason for that. You think about the different climates in the U.S., the Gulf Coast region to the upper Northwest to southern Florida. Hereford can thrive in all those regions very well. The adaptability, the hardiness of that Hereford female, the bull, or a crossbred female, a tiger stripe, a baldy, a red baldy, they all work.
The American Hereford Association is committed to working with commercial cattle producers to help them find the best marketing option for their Hereford cross calves.
We're very dedicated to the cow-calf commercial producer, and we believe there's a big ceiling left for Hereford genetics to make a big impact in this commercial industry. Our staff is very dedicated at the American Hereford Association to make sure these guys and you are profitable. And so we set up the Hereford Advantage program. It's been around for about 3 years now, and that's an opportunity that commercial producers, it's a free program that they have. We turn that information into a very progressive list of buyers and feeders that we have. We get on the phones. We send emails out, texts out to this group of feedlot buyers that we have so they can know about your calves, and we help you market them.
The Hereford Association has been real good to work with on the marketing end. We sell privately and have for years, and when we switched over to F1, our buyer was not really excited about that. Then the Hereford Association, finding a premium for those calves, there's no hang-ups when we're trying to deal on them and stuff after he found out there is a premium and a place to go with them.
The markets are volatile, they're tough, and I think we're in a position and a day and time where it's about reputation. It's about developing that reputation for that next buyer or two buyers from now at the packer level. What we really want to strive for at the American Hereford Association is create a legacy for your ranch, create that reputable market for your cattle through Hereford genetics, and we firmly believe that you can, and we're just wanting to help you out.
From the Sandhills of Nebraska, I'm Brad Bullitt for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
To learn more about the value of hybrid vigor and the Hereford Advantage program, visit hereford.org or call 1-816-842-3757. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, see how John Deere equipment is helping a Nebraska operation produce higher quality feed. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
How's your production on pasture? Are profits down? Are weight gains down? What are you going to do about it? Do something cost-effective. Do something that will make a difference. To add the first and proven leader in feed-through hornfly control to your cattle rations, ask for it by name, Alticid IGR.
Do you know all you need to about working cattle? Did you know there are proven methods that can reduce stress for the animals, for you and your crew? Now there's an easy way for you to learn from the experts who can help sharpen your stockmanship and stewardship skills. In interactive sessions, you'll learn better ways to work cattle more efficiently, skills that can help put more money in your pocket. Find out more and locate an upcoming event near you at the website stockmanshipandstewardship.org.
Having the right tools and equipment makes any job go faster, which saves you valuable time and money. Matt Fleck takes us to a dairy in Nebraska that relies on John Deere equipment to get their work done quickly and efficiently.
The Cattlemen family in Nebraska has plenty to keep them busy. Not only do they operate a 250-head dairy, they also finish around 2,000 Holstein steers each year while farming 2,500 acres. Doug Cattlemen took over the operation in 1985 and runs it with his sons today.
One of my goals in my life is I always wanted to work with my dad, and I never had the chance. I grew up on a farm, and if I could have the opportunity to bring my boys back to the farm, that was my biggest goal in life. It's a real joy, and I'm really thankful to God that I can work with my boys, raise them in the culture that I want them to be in, and it's just special to me to be with them every day.
The farm and the dairy go hand in hand, with the Cattlemens growing most of what they feed the cows. Dairy cows have high nutritional requirements, which is why the family works hard to ensure they're only producing the highest quality crops.
You got to have good quality stuff, so you always want to make sure you're doing a good job with your hay work and stuff. Corn silage is the same thing. We got to have a certain kind of corn silage for our milk cows.
We like to raise quality alfalfa for the dairy, good corn for the dairy, good soybeans for soybean meal. We put up silage, which is used both by the dairy and the feedlot. So we use our hay and grinding and stuff like that for the fat cattle and stuff too. But it's kind of like whatever you put in is what you get out. So if I put good products in, I'm going to get a good product back out. So we try to put up quality feed in every crop we raise.
For years, the Cattlemen family has relied on their local John Deere dealership for all their agricultural products. They know John Deere equipment makes the job easier, helps control costs, and allows efficient and effective use of time and labor.
We've been green equipment for a long time. It's good equipment. It's easy to run, it's durable. We put a lot of hours on our equipment. We tried out a John Deere baler, I'm going to say 20 years ago. It seemed like it had more capacity. It made a good product. We could go in the field sometimes and get more done with it. And it got us started, Arnhem, and I couldn't even count on my hand how many John Deere balers we've had. We run 2 of them right now, and I borrow my neighbor's John Deere when I get behind and stuff. So they're a good machine. They really are.
We support multiple facets of their operation, not just the cattle and feedlot operation, but also their row crop, hay equipment and everything. To be involved in multiple pieces of their operation is really quite important, and we take a lot of pride in that as well, that we don't just support one part of their operation, but we're involved in the everyday, day-to-day operations. A lot of the guys, you consider them, part of the family, they're your friends. I always joke that a lot of the guys, I see them certain times of the year more often than I see my own wife, so you build very close relationships with those people.
I want to have parts the next day or that day. I got to have parts. Downtime kills everybody on the farm. It doesn't matter who you're talking to or what kind of equipment you run. I've got really good working relationships with our salesmen, our parts guys. I can call them after hours on their personal cell phone and they'll go get us parts. So I'd have to say we do have a great relationship with them.
John Deere equipment also helps keep Cattlemen dairies sustainable, which means they'll be able to pass it on to future generations.
I want to leave the place better than the way I got it, and I want my son to be, I want both of my sons, even my nephews, I want it readily available for them to come back. I hope it's here for the next generation. I really do. I wouldn't change it for the world. I enjoy coming to work every day. I do. I wouldn't change it. I love what I'm doing.
Reporting from Nebraska, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
If you'd like to learn more about how equipment from John Deere can bring value to your farm or ranch, visit the website johndeere.com. And joining me now is Terry Walsh. She's the Beef Product Manager for Kent Nutrition Group. Thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing a little bit about your new Cornerstone products, Terry.
Well, thanks for having us, Kevin. We're really excited to be featuring our Energy Last, Framework, and NutriVantage for beef products this year.
I want to talk first about the Energy Last product. We were talking moments ago. Tell us a little bit about that product and what makes it so different.
Well, Energy Last is a unique manufacturing process, which is really what makes it different. So any of the cattlemen out there have made candy before, they'll understand that this product is very similar to that. We take molasses and we boil the water off, and then we're left with a product that's really hard, so that helps limit our intake, but the sweetness of the product is what keeps driving cattle back, even though we're not adding salt.
That's fantastic. And so how might that be different than some other products that folks may be familiar with?
Sure. Well, some other products on the market they use chemical hardeners to harden the block, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, the producer's buying a lot of water. But when they're buying Energy Last, we've removed the majority of water. So that product is only about 4% moisture. So you're getting a more nutrient-dense product than you would with some of the other products on the market.
And it's particularly appropriate if you have medium to high quality forage, or what are you suggesting it be paired with?
Well, we have a product to pair with any type of forage. Fantastic. So we have some very high protein products when you have very low protein or very poor quality forages or corn stalks. And we have some lower protein or even just straight mineral products for when you have really good grass or you're feeding a high quality forage.
Now, one of your other Cornerstone products is this Framework 365 mineral program that you were talking about.
Yes.
Give us an overview of that.
Well, our Framework mineral we're really excited about because we have a product that will work for every type of producer out there. Whether you have just commercial cattle that you're running on pasture, or you've got some high-end AI and ET cows that are babied beyond belief, we have a product for that.
And you talk about those cows that get babied or maybe need a little something extra. Your Black Premium Full Flush program, what exactly constitutes that program?
Yeah, well, that's really our premium mineral, the very top of the pyramid, as you can see behind us. And that has additional trace minerals. It's got a very standard 2-to-1 calcium phosphorus ratio, because phosphorus is very important for reproductive performance. We also add additional goodies. We have some chelated trace minerals in there. We have a higher level of vitamins, which also help with reproductive performance. And of course, we feature our NutriVantage for beef in that product.
Well, and we were going to talk about NutriVantage. So I'm not familiar with it. I know it's been around in some way, shape, or form for some time, but tell us what NutriVantage is.
It has, and you may know the name BoVantage because that's what it was before, but we're relaunching it as NutriVantage for beef. So it's the same great product, it just has a new name and a new look. Fantastic.
And anything else that we need to know about where to get that?
Well, you can buy NutriVantage from any of our Kent dealers. We do feature it in our Black Premium Full Flush mineral.
So you mentioned that NutriVantage is available in mineral. Are there any other products that we can find that in as well?
We do have NutriVantage for beef included in some of our other products. The easiest way to figure out whether it's in that is to look for the NutriVantage logo on the feed tag.
Simple enough. Terry, thank you so much for joining us. Kent Feeds has been such a long-time supporter of the beef industry and deliverer of great products for well over 90 years.
Yes, sir.
And we appreciate learning a little bit more about these innovative new products.
Thank you, Kevin. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
And for more information on these Cornerstone products and many others, just go to kentfeeds.com. Still ahead, it's time for a visit with our good friend, Baxter Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Run with us on a John Deere 3E Series tractor and add an attachment or two. Because it's time to turn this land and everything on it, as far as the eye can see, into your land. Nothing runs like a Deere. Run with us. Search John Deere 3E Series for more.
When a new calf hits the ground, his clock starts ticking.
A belly full of colostrum gives him his best odds, but if he doesn't get any, his time starts running out. That's when you grab a bag of Oxford Ag Colostrum in their patented feeding system. Fill them with warm water, shake it to mix, feed it with a tube or nipple, and you are done. No bucket, no bottle, no mess, and right on time. Get yours at oxfordag.com. Costs less than a dead calf.
Did you know that Prefert makes over 1,000 different farm, ranch, and rodeo items? And now, thanks to Prefert Direct, it's easier than ever before to get access to every item Prefert makes delivered direct to your local dealer. For more information about Prefert Direct, visit us at prefert.com. Prefert, America's #1 name in farm, ranch, and rodeo.
A source of pride amongst cowboys is knowing the lay of the land. And any poor fool that gets lost, they figure ain't much of a hand. They told me, we'll meet up at Bull Creek, and looked at me like a trainee. Draw me a map and I'll find it. Columbus had nothing on me. Daylight broke into my windshield, headed south and loaded for bear. I turned at the Grassmere Station. I should have shot myself right there, because nothing was like they described it. No mailbox where it should be, no coyote hide on a fence post. Now where's Mary's Creek supposed to be? Their map showed tourist attractions, including, I swear, Noah's Ark. Little old trickling Sheep Creek was wider than Yellowstone Park. I crossed the Horse and the Cow Creek, and creeks named for nickels and dimes. I crossed Knit Creek, Louse Creek, and Crab Creek. I crossed Willer Creek 28 times. I drove demented and crazy, chasing my tail like a dog, coursing through desert and mountain, brush thicket and cattail bog. Fighting back panic, I'm thinking, I could die and never be found. Worse yet, I'll look like a gunsel who can't find his way out of town. Well, Harold was boss of the truckers, and I figured he might set me right, so I called him up on the two-way and explained my desperate plight. He said, describe your surroundings. I looked for a landmark somewhere. There ain't nothing but rocks and mesquite trees. He said, Sonny, you're almost there. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter. I think we can all appreciate directions like that. Now, if you'd like to stay up to date with what's happening with Cattlemen and Cattlemen, you can find us on Facebook. We keep you posted with information about upcoming shows, farms and ranches we're visiting across the country, and we share legacy photos too. So check us out on Facebook. And we'll be back with more right after this. Stay with us.
Are you ready to go deep in the heart of Texas for the 2020 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show? It's the cattle industry's biggest convention back in San Antonio, a place filled with incredible sights, history, food, and fun. And you can't afford to miss the huge NCBA Trade Show.
The trade show is unbelievable. I think it's the biggest one I've ever been to, and it seems like it just gets bigger and better every year.
There's no better place for cattlemen and women to learn, have fun, and connect with fellow producers from across the country.
Cattle Industry Convention is one of those can't miss, right? If you haven't gone or haven't attended, you see so many old friends, and it really is. It's a combination of business and social.
Amazing speakers, unbeatable education, all for cattle producers. So plan now to go deep in the heart of Texas for the 2020 Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. Visit ncba.org for more.
We're wrapping up this week's show with legacy photos. These are great shots submitted by our viewers of daily life on their farm or ranch. Let's take a look. Want to see your photo on Cattlemen to Cattlemen? You can submit your favorite shots a couple of ways. Message them to us on the Cattlemen to Cattlemen Facebook page or email them to c2c@beef.org. Send them our way and we may use them on a future episode. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. We'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.